Good morning, folks. Welcome to another of our devotionals as we start a new week. We're going to be looking at Psalm 46. Let me ask a question. To whom do you turn when things in life are chaotic, maybe dangerous, or maybe you find yourself in circumstances that are filling you with fear or anxiety, stress, confusion? Well, the answer is to be found in Psalm 46. Psalm 46 has been described as a psalm of sturdy confidence in the Lord. It was, of course, the psalm that Martin Luther was reading that moved him to write his hymn, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. I want to look at the first three verses of this psalm this morning. It opens with a strong affirmation of faith and trust in God. Now, the background to the writing of this psalm enables us to understand how the writer could be so confident in God, how his faith was so strong. So what is the background? Well, a lot of commentators believe that the background to this psalm was the deliverance of Jerusalem from the attacking forces of the Assyrians under the leadership of Sennacherib during the reign of Hezekiah, king of Judah. The details of that are recorded for us in Isaiah 36 and 37. And having observed with others in Jerusalem how God amazingly delivered Jerusalem and its inhabitants from Sennacherib and his army, the writer then goes and puts pen to paper in a spirit of full confidence in this great God. In the opening words of verse 1 in the original Hebrew, there is a very strong emphasis laid on the word God. In order to get the full thrust of it, it would read something like this: God and He alone, and nothing and no one else, is the one who is our refuge and our strength. He's the one that we look to and in whom we find refuge in the face of any kind of calamity. The word refuge was an important word for the psalmist and his contemporaries. It pictured a strong fortress into which a person could run and in which he knew if he got there, he would find absolute safety. As well as that, he is an unfailing source of strength, which is important, of course, whenever one is aware of one's own weakness, whenever one is aware of one's own personal inability to cope with danger and an overwhelming sense that circumstances are coming on top of us. The second half of verse 1 can be translated, as most English translations give it, a very present help in time of trouble. This translation emphasizes the fact of God's nearness, always there for us in all the times of trouble that we have to face in life, whatever the nature of the trouble. However, it can also be translated like this: a well-proven help in trouble. In other words, the psalmist is saying he has proven himself time and time again to be there for us, his people. Life's experience shows us God will never leave us or forsake us. He'll always be there for us because he always has been, therefore he always will be. God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help, a well-proven help in times of trouble. Now, if that is true, if verse 1 is true, and if that truth takes hold of one's heart and one grasps what is stated, then what follows in verses 2 and 3 is natural. Because here we have an attitude of complete fearlessness, complete confidence in the Lord, even in view of the most terrible calamities in life. He pictures the most violent of earthquakes, to have the very ground that you stand on, that you know to be solid, immovable, suddenly to shake and fall apart all around you, something which would normally fill a person with terror, even if it were so violent that the very mountains were to totter and shake and break apart. Well, even in such circumstances, our confidence would be in the Lord, says the psalmist. We wouldn't be full of terror. Basically, he's saying, even the most frightening thing one could imagine happening is no reason for me to be overcome with terrorized fear. Even in such circumstances, I can and I will trust in the Lord. I wonder, folks, have we such faith in the Lord? Some of us have experienced God's care and protection and provision and strength and confidence in the past. We have faced very life-challenging experiences. Our worlds at times have fallen apart around us. But isn't it true that God has been there for us? That He has come alongside us and ministered to us? That He has been our strength, our refuge? And isn't it a case that because God has done this for us in the past, we are able to say, He is my refuge and my strength. Therefore, I will not fear. It's a wonderful thing to have such confidence in God. To be able to say, I will not fear no matter what happens to me in my life. God is my refuge and my strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, I will not fear. Having read these 3 verses, my response is, Lord, give me such a faith. May that be your prayer also. Have a great day.